My name is Isabella Clark, I'm 33 years old, and until last autumn, I would have sworn my brother would never betray me. Ethan and I grew up like soldiers in the same foxhole, facing the world together. We shared everything, mismatched hand-me-downs, the last slice of toast, and dreams too big for our small town of Fairview, Illinois. After our father walked out when I was 9 and Ethan was 11, Mom worked double shifts at the local diner and cleaned offices at night just to keep the lights on. Those long, exhausted years stitched Ethan and me together tighter than most siblings. We even made a pact one stormy night, lying under our creaky bunk beds, promising we'd always have each other's backs. Always. Ethan had a head for numbers. I was drawn to anything that involved taking things apart and figuring out how they worked. In high school, I found my calling in computer programming. He, meanwhile, excelled in math competitions and part-time accounting work for a local business. We both worked after school, saving every dollar we could. When Ethan won a partial scholarship to Northwest State University, I helped him pack, hiding my tears behind a smile. 2 years later, I followed him into higher education, working days at a print shop and taking night classes. In a cramped dorm room with a second-hand laptop, I started building what would become Aurora Systems, a technology company that grew from my late-night code into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. Ethan was my first investor, $400 from his campus job, and my first believer. "You're going to change the world, Izzy," he told me, squeezing my shoulder. Aurora's early years were brutal, months when I couldn't afford rent, nights spent sleeping on my office floor, and rejection after rejection from investors who couldn't see past my age or the fact I wasn't a man in a suit. But every week, Ethan and I talked. He took the safer route, climbing steadily at Stonewall & Grant, a prestigious financial firm. The day Aurora landed its first big contract, he was the first call I made. "We did it," I told him through tears. "No," he corrected gently. "You did it. I just knew you would." That was Ethan, my ally, my cheerleader. But 3 years ago, he met Camille Harrington at a corporate fundraiser. Camille was the daughter of a property tycoon, the kind of family that had vacation estates with names like Willow Crest and Mariners Point. Their romance moved fast. From the first dinner I had with them, I sensed the ground shifting. Camille was beautiful, confident, and spoke in the easy, breezy way of someone who'd never worried about paying a bill. She glanced at my sensible work outfit that night and asked, "Did you come straight from your computer thing?" The smile didn't reach her eyes. Ethan chuckled awkwardly and assured her I was actually doing quite well, as if my worth needed defending. Our weekly calls became monthly. Then, they came only if I reached out first. Ethan's vocabulary changed: weekend in Aspen, our golf club, Camille's stylist. I told myself to be happy for him. If he'd found love, who was I to question it? 6 months before the wedding, Aurora Systems was approached by Stonewall & Grant for a potential partnership. The deal, worth nearly $28 million, would benefit both companies. Ethan seemed excited, even nostalgic, during our meetings. "This is huge for us," he said one afternoon. "Camille and I are looking at a place in Greenwich. This would seal my promotion to partner." We signed the deal. For me, it was more than business, it felt like proof that we were still a team. When the wedding invitation arrived, embossed and heavy, my full title was there: Isabella Clark, CEO of Aurora Systems. For a moment, I thought maybe Camille had come to respect me. I spent weeks finding the perfect gift, a commissioned artwork blending Fairview's skyline with the glittering New York view where they'd start their married life. I bought a designer gown that cost more than our childhood rent and hired a stylist for hair and makeup. This was my chance to show I could belong in Ethan's new circle. I had no idea that instead of being welcomed as family, I'd be treated as though I didn't belong at all. The Harrington Grand Hotel in Manhattan was the kind of place that radiated old money: marble floors polished like mirrors, doormen in tailored uniforms, and chandeliers so massive they seemed to defy physics. I arrived alone, having declined the +1 option. I wanted this day to be about supporting Ethan, not juggling small talk with a date. My heels clicked against the marble as I carried my gift toward the welcome table, clutching the thick, gold-embossed invitation. Two bridesmaids in identical satin dresses scanned the seating chart. "Name?" one asked. "Clark." "Isabella Clark," I replied. They exchanged a glance. "Are you sure you're at the right wedding?" "Yes," I said, smiling tightly. "I'm the groom's sister." The surprise on her face was impossible to miss. "Huh. He never mentioned you." Her voice trailed off as she handed me a program. I spotted Ethan across the lobby, his tuxedo fitting him like it had been sewn on. For a moment, relief flooded me. Here was my brother, my anchor. But when I approached, his hug was stiff, and his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Isabella, you made it," he said, looking past me. "Of course. It's your wedding day," I replied, ignoring the knot forming in my stomach. He nodded distractedly. "Camille's parents insisted on the Harrington tradition. I should go greet some guests." "Find your seat, ceremony starts in 30. And just like that, he was gone, swallowed by a crowd of people whose approval apparently mattered more than my presence. At the elaborate seating display, names were written in graceful calligraphy and pinned to an ornate frame. Family, as expected, was listed in the first 2 rows. I scanned them once, twice, 3 times. Clark wasn't there. A woman directing guests noticed me lingering. "Can I help you?" "I can't find my seat." "I'm Isabella Clark, the groom's sister." Recognition flickered in her eyes, followed by something that looked uncomfortably like pity. "Ah. Yes. You've been given a special arrangement. Please take any open seat in the back for now." The ceremony was flawless, the kind of beauty only an unlimited budget could buy. But as Ethan and Camille exchanged vows about 2 families becoming one, I sat in the very last row, already feeling erased from that vision. Afterward, during the photo session, Camille's mother called 4 family-only shots. I stepped forward instinctively, but no one beckoned me in. Ethan stood arm in arm with his new in-laws, their perfect smiles cementing a new chapter that clearly didn't include me. The cocktail hour was worse. I stood near a column, nursing champagne, overhearing murmurs. "That's her, the sister. Runs some tech company. New money, you know." Eventually, a server approached to direct guests into the grand ballroom for dinner. "I'm Isabella Clark, the groom's sister," I repeated for what felt like the 10th time. The young man checked his tablet, then frowned. "One moment, ma'am," he whispered with another staff member before returning. "If you'll follow me, please." I expected to be led to a round table in the glittering ballroom. Instead, we turned down a side corridor. The sound of music and laughter faded, replaced by the clang of pots and the smell of roasting meat. The hotel kitchen was massive, buzzing with chefs in white coats and servers balancing trays. In the corner, near a stack of crates, sat a small round table with a single place setting. A plain printed card read, "I. Clark." "This can't be right," I said, my voice catching. "These were the arrangements we were given," the staffer replied apologetically. "I can get the wedding planner if you'd like." Before I could answer, the kitchen door swung open. Camille stepped inside, her designer gown trailing behind her. She spotted me immediately. "Isabella," she said crisply. "I hear you're upset about your seating." "I'm in the kitchen," I said, incredulous. "There must be a mistake." "No mistake. Space in the ballroom is limited. We prioritized guests according to importance." The words hit like a slap. "I'm your husband's only sister." "Which is why you were invited at all," she said smoothly. "Ethan understands how these events work. If this arrangement makes you uncomfortable, you're free to leave." I opened my mouth to respond, but stopped when I saw Ethan in the doorway, hovering. He'd heard everything. Our eyes met. I waited for him to say something, anything. Instead, he looked away, placed a hand on Camille's back, and said quietly, "It's just for tonight, Izzy. Please don't make a scene." They left me there, standing among strangers, my humiliation complete. For a few stunned seconds I just stood there in the humming brightness of the kitchen, the clang of pans and the hiss of burners rising and falling like a tide. A sous chef noticed my face and quietly set a glass of water at my elbow. "You can stay here as long as you need," she murmured, then vanished back into the heat. I carried the water down a service hallway and locked myself in a staff restroom that smelled faintly of bleach and lavender soap. Under the unforgiving fluorescent light I stared at my reflection, immaculate updo, lipstick that cost more than our childhood school shoes, and eyes rimmed red. I'd built Aurora Systems on a handful of principles: respect people. Tell the truth. Don't partner with anyone who treats dignity as optional. They were printed on the wall in our lobby. I could recite them in my sleep. So why was I swallowing this? Memories arrived in sudden, sharp flashes: Ethan walking me to first grade because I was terrified of the bully by the swings, me pawning my old tablet so he could cover rent during his first internship, the night we ate grilled cheese by candlelight when the power bill was overdue and promised we would never forget where we came from. My phone buzzed in my clutch, a silent firefly. I scrolled through a few messages: congratulations from acquaintances, a calendar alert about a board call next week, then stopped on Priya Desai, Aurora's CFO. My thumb hovered. Terminating a contract of this size at a wedding reception felt unhinged. It also felt honest. I dialed. "Boss?" Priya's voice came through warm and steady. "Everything okay?" "Not really," I said. "We're invoking the termination clause with Stonewall and Grant." Silence, then a slow inhale. Priya had weathered my boldest decisions, she knew I didn't swing wild. "Effective when?" "Draft the notice tonight, courier first thing Monday." "Site misalignment of values and culture. We'll pay the penalty." "Understood," she said. "Do you want comms looped in?" "Yes." "Have Jamal prepare a simple statement: Aurora partners with organizations that demonstrate respect at every level. Nothing adversarial, just clear." "Got it." A pause. "Are you sure you're okay?" "I will be," I said, and ended the call before my resolve trembled. I pressed cold water to my pulse points, reapplied my lipstick, and stepped back into the artery of hallways. On my way to the ballroom, I passed the gift table. The painting I'd commissioned, Fairview's modest rooftops flowing into the Manhattan skyline, sat wrapped in silver paper. For a second I considered retrieving it. Then I left it where it was. Let the image of where we started sit beside the life he'd chosen. The ballroom was in full shimmer, strings of lights like constellations, glassware chiming, 1,000 laughs lacquered over the music. I skirted the edge, unsure where to plant myself, when a man with a crisp pocket square detached from a cluster of executives and offered his hand. "Isabella Clark, Aurora Systems," he said, as if the name tasted expensive. "Harper Caldwell, managing partner at Stonewall." I wanted to say how thrilled we are about the Aurora deal. "Ethan's been a star championing it internally." "Has he?" I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Oh, absolutely. It's basically cemented his partner vote. Timing is everything, right?" He winked, then lifted his champagne. "To fruitful alignments." I watched him go, and the last piece slid into place. This wasn't a seating chart. It was a map of priorities. Mine didn't make the legend. Ethan moved along the head table like a politician at a victory rally, accepting congratulations with the polite smile he'd perfected. When he turned, I was already there. "Walk with me," I said. Not a plea. A request framed as a fact. We stepped toward a quieter corner near a bank of white orchids. Up close I could see a shadow of strain around his eyes. "Isabella," he started, "about earlier." "There's not much to parse," I said softly. "I was placed in the kitchen. You watched." "It was a logistical squeeze," he replied, the words arriving too rehearsed. "Camille's parents have their way of doing things. This night is complicated. I didn't want a scene." "You achieved that," I said. "You got a perfect photo." And I got a metal chair by a service station. He swallowed. It's one night. No, I said. It's a compass. He frowned, as if that metaphor personally offended him. Isabella, be reasonable. This deal, what we've built together, it lifts both of us. Don't take it personally. I'm the only sister you have, I said. How else would I take it? Camille's perfume reached us before she did, citrus and something rarer. She swept in, arm tucked through her father's. Are we interrupting? She asked with a smile that showed every tooth. Not at all, I said. I was just letting Ethan know I've cancelled the Stonewall contract. For a heartbeat, the room seemed to tilt. Ethan went the color of printer paper. Camille's smile froze, then calcified. You've done what? She said. I called my CFO, I answered evenly. The termination notice goes out Monday morning. Ethan found his voice. Izzy, you can't, this is my partner track. They tied projections to that revenue. And I tied my name to a line called respect, I said. If the only way to sit with your family is to accept being treated like furniture, I'll stand. Camille glanced at the surrounding tables, calculating optics. You'd jeopardize Ethan's future over a seating misunderstanding? It wasn't a misunderstanding, I said. It was a message. Mr. Harrington, who had stayed half a step behind his daughter like a general refusing to lower himself to the fray, finally spoke. Ms. Clark, business shouldn't be entangled with private sentiments. Business is people wearing tuxedos, I replied. If your ecosystem thrives on pecking orders, Aurora isn't a fit. Ethan reached for my hand, I moved it away gently. Please, he whispered. We can fix the table. Come up front for dessert. I'll introduce you around. The offer landed like an afterthought. That's not what needs fixing, I said. And you don't get to edit the last hour with pastry. Camille's tone cooled to polished steel. You realize we'll push back legally. I read the contract, I said. I wrote parts of the language myself. People were watching now, first a few, then many, because a room like this could smell a story. Glasses paused mid-air, murmurs braided at the edges. Ethan stared at me as if I were a puzzle he used to know how to solve. You're overreacting, he said, clutching for a script he could live with. I'm finally reacting, I answered. My phone hummed again. Priya, draft underway. Jamal on the statement. You good? I typed back, yes. Then slid the phone away. The band shifted into a Sinatra standard. Somewhere, a photographer's flash popped. A waiter tried to slip past with a tray of roasted halibut. The scent of lemon and butter made my stomach twist. I stepped back from the little tableau we'd created, husband, wife, father, the orchids like a chorus, then gave Ethan one last chance to find the boy under the tuxedo. I wanted to be proud of you today, I said. I wanted to clap until my hands stung. But pride and silence aren't the same thing. If you ever forget again, look at that painting on the gift table. We're still those rooftops, whether you hang it or not. His mouth opened. Closed. Somewhere inside, maybe, a door creaked. I left the ballroom. On my way out, I passed the kitchen again. The sous chef met my eye and gave a tiny nod that felt like a blessing. Outside, the night was cool and absurdly clear, the kind of sky that makes you believe the city lights are constellations if you squint right. I walked to the curb and let the doorman call a car. In the back seat I set my clutch beside me and rested my head against the cool glass. My phone lit up, unknown numbers, Stonewall extensions, Ethan's name repeating like an alarm. I switched it to airplane mode and watched the Harrington Grand recede in the mirror, a glittering ship I was no longer trying to board. At home I hung the gown on a chair and unpinned my hair, the curls falling like commas at the end of a chapter. I ran a bath so hot it fogged the mirror and sank in until the water quieted everything but my heartbeat. When I finally climbed out, I opened my laptop, skimmed Priya's draft, clean, exact, humane, and approved it. Then I sat in the dark with a cup of tea I didn't drink. The apartment hummed softly around me, the refrigerator, the city breathing through the window sill. It hit me that grief can be sharp and clean like glass, or slow and dull like tide on stone. Tonight it was both. But I had drawn a line. And for the first time that day, I felt steady. I turned my phone back on long enough to send a single text to Ethan. I love you. I won't teach you to treat me this way. No more, no less. Then I set the phone face down, turned out the light, and let the city carry me toward morning. By the next morning, my phone looked like a slot machine stuck on the same losing spin, missed calls, voicemails, text chains that bloomed and died in a matter of minutes. Some were from Ethan. Some from numbers I didn't recognize but knew belonged to Stonewall and Grant's senior circle. I ignored them all until I saw one from Aunt Meredith, our mother's younger sister. Heard what happened. You okay? The kindness in that short message cracked something open. I told her the truth, no sugar, no public relations gloss. Your mother would have been proud, she said simply. She raised you to know your worth. That sentence replayed in my head all week. At Aurora, I explained the cancelled contract to my leadership team with one line: we're aligning our partnerships with our values. No one asked for more details. We pivoted fast, pursuing other opportunities, and within a month, 2 companies that had previously hesitated to work with us signed on, both citing our refusal to compromise principle for profit. Meanwhile, I heard from mutual contacts that the loss of the Aurora deal had shaken Stonewall. The contract had been baked into their quarterly projections, now there was a gap they couldn't fill quickly. And Ethan, the rising star groom, was suddenly being whispered about in partner meetings. One former colleague told me he'd exaggerated his influence over Aurora to the partners, implying the deal was ironclad because of family ties. That lie didn't age well. His personal life wasn't faring better. Camille, it turned out, had expected a faster climb to the lifestyle her family considered standard. When the partnership didn't materialize, their glossy photo album life began to fray. 6 months later, I received an email from Ethan. No accusations. No justifications. Just, Izzy. I've had time to think about that night, and the years that led to it. I was wrong. About the seating, about letting Camille and her family treat you the way they did, about standing there and saying nothing. I failed you as a brother. I'm sorry. I don't expect anything from you, I just needed you to know I see it now. I read it 3 times, searching for an angle, a hook. There wasn't one. Just an apology that didn't ask for my forgiveness as a form of payment. It took me 3 weeks to answer, thank you for your message. I hope you're well. It wasn't warm. But it was honest. 3 months after that, my phone lit up with his name again. Hi, he said. I'm in town for a conference. Would you, maybe have coffee? We met at a quiet cafe near my office. He looked older, not just in the lines around his eyes but in the way he carried himself, like he'd been forced to stop and take stock. Camille and I are separated, he said. Divorce will be final soon. It needed to happen. He told me how, after that night, he started noticing things he'd ignored, the way Camille spoke to waitstaff, her casual dismissal of anyone she deemed beneath her. I thought I wanted that world, he admitted. But it was empty. And it cost me you. It was never about the seat, I said. It was about what it meant. I know, he nodded. I became someone I don't like. I'm trying to fix that. We talked for almost 2 hours. He listened when I described Aurora's new mentorship program for first-generation entrepreneurs, Roots to Rise. He even volunteered to help. It was small, tentative, but it was a start. Over the next year, we built something new, not the blind loyalty of childhood, but a relationship with boundaries, mutual respect, and an understanding that family isn't a free pass to cross lines. I don't know if we'll ever be what we were. But I do know this, the night I walked out of that ballroom, I chose my own dignity over silent acceptance. And that choice has shaped every partnership, every decision, every relationship since. If someone tries to diminish you, whether they share your blood or not, you have the right to walk away. Because the truth is, your worth isn't decided by who invites you to their table. It's decided by whether you take a seat in the kitchen, or stand up and leave.